Hello and welcome back to F1 22 Driver Career Mode. My name is Chris, and if you haven't seen last race at Spa, you should go check that one out. Spoiler alert, we won with a dominant performance. But coming into Monza, there's some big news in the world of Formula One. Oh yes, Audi have confirmed they're going to join from Season 3. And what's better? We're going with them. Oh yeah. Big news for Season 3. Early on as well. Quite early in the silly season. We're not waiting to the last minute. We're just getting right in there. And we've signed up with Audi. They've promised us big plans. They're going to go from what is currently the second worst car on the grid to winning championships. So we're gonna join them and we're gonna try and take them there. We've done incredible work with Alpine, I think, over the last couple of seasons. We are on track currently to fight for the current World Championship. Could it happen? Who knows? There's a few races to go. It could. We're not very far off that championship lead, so there's still a shot. And that would be incredible. If we win the championship, then go to Audi. Sure, we'll be taking a massive step back, but we go again. We can build something. We can go for another championship in 2, 3, 4 seasons' time. It'll be fun. Anyway, for now, we've got work to do with Alpine. So, as I said, we won in Spa. We did an incredible job. Just absolutely dominated with the big brain strategy. We had the virtual safety car, the full safety car. It just played right into our hands. We took the mediums as long as we could, jumped on the softs and just ran away with it. And left Max Verstappen nowhere to be seen, basically. But let's focus on this weekend. Upgrades are coming in thick and fast. All of them seem to come in. 3 upgrades we managed to get, which is great. So we should be looking good for Monza. And I think we bought a power upgrade as well, which is always a treat around this track, given it's the fastest on the calendar. So let's go to qualifying and see what we can make of those upgrades. Onto the track we go. Into turn 1. Through the Ascari chicane. Not looking too bad so far. Obviously no one's really set times yet, so we're currently sat in last. And we come round the final corner on the power as early as possible and up to the line. What is the time going to be? A 1:20.4, and that puts us second only to Sainz, who's already in the 19s. So bit of pace to find. I'm confident we can find it as we go out again for a second lap, improving by a couple of tenths so far into the first of the Lesmo corners. Lots of pace on the table, I feel, still, as we come through into the Parabolica. Almost half a second up now, purple through sector 2 as we come round towards the line. What's it going to be as we head to the finish of this lap? 5 tenths up, 1:19.9. It's only good enough for P3 though. Verstappen and Sainz both ahead of us. Good enough, however, to get us through to Q2, of course. Top 15 going through. Esteban Ocon, huge pace in P4. George Russell and Mercedes in third, and the 2 Red Bulls fastest so far this weekend. We'll see if that comes to fruition. The weather forecast is saying it's looking like a potentially wet race, which may play very much into our hands as we head into Q2 then. Still dry at the moment. I don't think we're going to get any wet weather. Don't think we're going to get any wet weather for qualifying. Only P11 with our first run though. That was on a used set of tyres, so we're going to go again. Fresh set of softs. And yeah, we're sort of improving already marginally as we head into turn 1 on that fresh set of softs. Bumping over the curb there. That was not the ideal line, but we have saved a couple of tenths there. So fresh tyres doing the job as you would expect. And Lewis Hamilton goes fastest with a 1:19.6. Sergio Perez bots that with a 1:19.3. So the times are flying in now. We're all the way down in P13 at the moment. If we don't improve significantly, we're not going to get into Q3. Coming across the line then, 6 tenths up. Did we get into Q3? Yes, we did. 7th place. Good enough to get us through to the shootout. Where did Ocon place though? He was absolutely flying. P9. So we've caught up to his pace, and Fernando Alonso in the Haas knocks out Ricciardo to get himself into Q3. Ricciardo 3 tenths nearly, over 3 tenths off off Fernando's pace there. So the cars with the better straight line speed showing themselves today. Into Q3. What can we do? Where can we place ourselves on this grid? Hopefully near the front. First lap good enough for a P6. We're going to go again for our final flyer lap. This is a audio up lap. I'm going to shut up and let you enjoy this one. There you go then, as we come into the final corner, making big improvements. We're fastest through Sector 2 pretty consistently. That might mean we're actually running a bit too much downforce, given that obviously Sector 2 has the most corners. So, across the line, where are we going to qualify for the Italian Grand Prix? It's only going to be 6th position. I think we're running a bit too much downforce, to be honest. We should be lowering those wings a bit, but it is what it is. Esteban Ocon, P5. Just above us. Sergio Perez, though, taking pole position from Carlos Sainz and Lando Norris. Max Verstappen all the way down in P4. We got a good opportunity to beat him in this race and hopefully close that points gap in the championship. The two Mercedes just behind in 7th and 8th. Pierre Gasly in 9th, and Fernando Alonso didn't quite do enough, but he was only a tiny bit behind Gasly. Could have got himself an extra position there, I reckon. But yeah, an interesting grid for this one. Let's see how it goes.
Welcome back to one of only 2 countries that has held a race every year since the very first Formula One World Championship in 1950. It is, of course, Italy, one of the great racing nations, and it's time to get underway for the Italian Grand Prix. With the rain coming down here at the 3.6-mile Monza circuit, the low drag setups preferred by most teams could cause them some problems in today's Grand Prix. So watch out for cars struggling for grip around the Curva Michele Alboreto. That's the Parabolica to you and me, the last and most demanding of this track's 11 corners. It's time to see how our drivers are stacking up after yesterday's exciting qualifying session. It's Sergio Perez on pole today, with Esteban Ocon alongside. Moving on to the rest of the grid, we have Marshall, Russell, Fernando Alonso and Ricciardo. Norris, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. Stroll, Vettel and Charles Leclerc. Latifi, Hamilton, they've taken a grid penalty. Pierre Gasly and Mick Schumacher. Magnussen, Albon. Robert Schwartzman, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And Carlos Sainz. Verstappen and Yuki Tsunoda. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out then. Let's see who can prevail today. And I'm joined once again by Anthony Davidson to bring you the lowdown for today's race. Let's talk about Marshall. What do you make of their performance so far this season?
It's been a really solid year so far. There have been some incredible standout performances, but what's really impressed me has been the consistency. With this kind of form, I'm expecting another great race today.
Okay, how was that pull away? You'll have a bit more grip than that on the start, but we need to warm the tyres properly now. Make sure you get some heat into the brakes as well.
And as we expected then, wet weather and grid penalties. Monza always brings some good grid penalties. It's a great track for that. Obviously, if you have the extra straight line speed of some new components, you can generally get past your opponents pretty easy, but we benefit massively we've moved up into P3. Ocon on the front row, just behind Sergio Perez. So we're going to be looking to get a good start here as we wait for everybody else. George Russell just behind us.
The start sequence will begin as soon as the grid is formed. Be ready with a clutch.
Fernando Alonso finds himself up 5 places. Plenty of grid penalties then as we patiently wait for those 5 red lights to start illuminating, and they do so. 5 red lights on. And we're underway for the Italian Grand Prix. Not a bad start for us, actually. We've been struggling for starts normally in the dry, but in the wet, we're absolutely flying. Ocon, absolute hounder of a start. He's straight past Sergio Perez into turn 1. Up the inside, he's going to take that lead. Can Sergio come back? He's got the inside line for turn 2. No, he doesn't. And he compromises his exit for turn 2. And we get a bit of a wobble on. I was going to say we might be challenging for P2 here, but we're not. We're going to let George Russell come up the inside with a terrible exit. He has the overspeed there, and he just absolutely flies past. Daniel Ricciardo also having a look, but we're going to outbrake them both and take back that P3 for the podium position. Sergio Perez then not going to be happy with that start, only in P2. But what about Max Verstappen? All the way down in last place currently. That's great news for us, because that probably means he's got a good chance of actually not scoring any points today. Carlos Sainz as well, all the way down in P13. So some of the front-running cars a long way back. Here's a replay of what happened to Max at the start. It looks like I'm playing that in slow motion. I'm not. That's the full speed footage. So yeah, turn 1 at Monza is always a bit of a mad one. But here we are with George Russell. And Lando Norris now having a look into the parabolica at Lance Stroll. Does so, and it looks like he's through and up into P7. So on lap 1, people are already making up places. Fernando Alonso, unfortunately, is going backwards. Only lost 1 place so far. And I say that as he decides that on the straight, he's going to make himself a move. What is Daniel Ricciardo doing? Trying to get past George Russell when there really was no room. He should have probably been paying attention to what Fernando was up to. And Fernando's back up into P5, and Lando Norris just behind was also fighting with Lance Stroll again into turn 1, but he has kept that position. Daniel Ricciardo down in P6 now, having a look at Fernando Alonso. Perhaps, I don't think he's anywhere close enough to make a move here. He's not, but we're back on board with ourselves then at the front of the Grand Prix, and Ocon still leads 2.2 seconds ahead of us, and 1.4 seconds the gap to Perez, but we're starting to pick up speed now. Obviously the AI in this game, pin perfect. They get on it straight away. I had no practice in the wet before this, so it takes me a few laps to get up to speed, but we're starting to get there. We set a purple sector 2. Here's Nicolas Latifi though, and he's spun it around. Into the side of him goes Yuki Tsunoda, just narrowly avoiding it. Mick Schumacher, and that's demotes him all the way down into last place. Not ideal for Williams, but I don't know what kind of damage he's got, but I would imagine Tsunoda's got some pretty bad damage, and he'll probably be in. We set fastest lap, means we are gaining big time. As you can see, onto lap 4, only 3/10 the gap now to Perez. Can we make a move? Maybe down into turn 1 on lap 5. There's certainly a possibility of it as we come into Ascari. Ocon still out in the lead, but not really pulling out any sort of gap. Big moment for us. And the gap will drop again to Perez, so we might have to wait another lap before we can make a move. And it turns out more than 1 lap as we go on to lap 7 now to maybe have a look at Sergio Perez into turn 1. That's a huge send into turn 1 down the inside. Cleanly done though, and we're through and up into P2. That's what we like to see. In the rest of the field, not too much going on really. Fastest lap. We think about a move on Ocon, but then we think again. We obviously don't really want to be putting him under too much pressure. We want the place, but we don't want to cause him to make a mistake or something. So ideally we want a 1-2. I'd like to be in front, but we're going to have to work for it. I don't think Ocon's going to give it up too easily. Having a look here into the chicane, we just had to avoid that because we committed to a move that wasn't really on, to be honest. So cutting the chicane, slowing down, letting him pass. Not ideal. Would have cost us a bit of time. Anyway, Lewis Hamilton here having a move on Lance Stroll potentially in the Mercedes. Going down the outside into turn 1. This is going to give him the room. Just about. And he goes for the inside. Doesn't get it done, unfortunately. So he's going to stay in P10 for now. Back to us though, and we're very close to Ocon now on lap 13. Can we make a move here? Potentially. No, we're going to jump into the pit lane and get some new inters on. Doesn't look like it's drying up anytime soon, so we may as well grab some new tyres. We're going to go a bit earlier than everybody else and hope that we can get these up to temperature.
Looks like a nice stop time. We're happy with that one.
And yeah, do a bit of an undercut. Norris and Alonso also into the pit lane, so there are some other teams thinking the same.
No more scheduled pit stops. Let's go.
There goes Pierre Gasly. Not pitted just yet. Daniel Ricciardo also went through, and you can see Ocon in sector 2 right now, coming under a little bit of pressure from Sergio Perez. Yeah, let's say that they're not super close. It's a good straightaway, so all good on Ocon's front. We're just going to hope that he can maintain that lead, and we can maybe fight for it later on. He's into the pit lane. We might be able to jump him here if we can get a good exit of Parabolica, because it's going to be very close. We were right on his gearbox when he went in, when we went in, sorry. So if we can get a good Parabolica, it wasn't the best, but it might be good enough. Deploy plenty of ERS down the straight. In goes Gasly to the pit lane for some new tyres. Ricciardo's in as well. Here's Ocon then coming out the pit lane. You can see us in the distance. By the time he gets up to speed, we'll be pretty damn close into turn 1, I would imagine. There we are, just in the background. Unfortunately, we're going to have to start getting on the brakes, and he's going to cover us off. But look at this. Almost down the inside. Not quite. We really compromised our exit there. Not really displaying a lot of patience in this race. I was getting a little bit frustrated that I couldn't get past Ocon. Team orders would have been fantastic here. You know, we're fighting for a championship, and he's not at the moment. So would have been nice, but you know, for the morale of Ocon, maybe he needs a win. I don't know, but he's already won in Silverstone. So yeah, he's taking points off us, which is not ideal, really. But it is what it is, I suppose. Down into turn 1, then on lap 16. We decide that this is the moment to send it down the inside. He wasn't expecting that, but it was a clean move. No contact made at all. And we're up into P1 of the Italian Grand Prix. Exactly where we wanted to be when we started on P3. Taking full advantage of those grid penalties. Nicolas Latifi then out of the race. I would imagine getting clonked in the side pod by Tsunoda after spinning maybe would have caused him to overheat. Although in these conditions, I don't know. It's definitely possible. 5 laps of fuel remaining in our car, and you can see we're only on lap 27, so it might be a bit tight, this one. And here we go. The red light comes on as we head into lap 23, which means we're low on fuel. And famously, this Renault engine does not like to save fuel at all. So we're going to have to do some heavy lift and coast now. We've got 3-second buffer to Ocon, but as we start to do the lift and coast over the next couple of laps, that buffer is coming down and down and down, and we're still really short of fuel. So we might be into low fuel mode by the time we get to the end of this. On to the final lap then of the Grand Prix. 7/10 the gap to Ocon. That's not ideal, and you can see on the right-hand side I've got the fuel up. We are still low. We're going to run out of fuel before we get to the end at this rate. Huge lift and coasts into the last couple of corners. 2/10 now the gap. We need a good exit here if we can fend him off. All the ERS. We just haven't got fuel. We're in low fuel mode. There's nothing we can do to defend this. Ocon absolutely flies by, and he's going to win the Italian Grand Prix on the final lap.
Yes, guys. Well done, mate.
Okay, good job, mate. Really well done. That was a fantastic drive.
I'm gutted. We had the win in the bag there, but we just didn't manage to fuel very well. Driver of the day, Max Verstappen. Sergio Perez on the podium with us.
Here we are then, a real team effort to overcome their rivals for a memorable win today. So, Anthony, what made the difference out there today?
Rain always has the potential to liven up a race and mix up the order, and they've taken full advantage of that to claim the victory today. It's always a bit of a lottery when the conditions are like this, but they've managed to stay on circuit and have come out on top.
As today's winners make their way up the podium steps, the folks at Alpine have shown once again just what it takes to build a successful Formula One team. A well-deserved win for them.
I agree. It was a well-deserved win for the team. A 1-2, of course. Gutted that it couldn't be a 1-2 in the other direction. We've had that twice now in this season. But we just didn't manage to fuel correctly. Like I said, the Renault engine does not like saving fuel. Even if you go into fuel save mode, huge lift and coast, I just can't seem to recover the fuel at all. So Ocon wins, takes a few points off us, but we still get the P2. And I don't think Max scored points, but we shall have a look in a second. He did. 2 points. Only 2 points, though, to our 19. We get the fastest lap as well. Ocon taking the full 25 for a race win. Sergio Perez in P3. George Russell in 4th. Daniel Ricciardo 5th. Lando Norris, Charles Leclerc, Gasly, Verstappen, and Hamilton close out your top 10. And Sainz from 18th all the way up to 11th. Not bad. No points for him, though, unfortunately. But here's what the Drivers' Championship looks like. This is what we love to see. We're in the lead of the championship by a single point. A single point. I'll take it, though. It's still a lead, and that will be great morale heading into the next few races. Max Verstappen then in 2nd. Perez only 6 points behind. So there's 3 drivers in this championship now. I think the Constructors is pretty much wrapped up. 60 points the gap to Red Bull, so they're probably going to take that. But yeah, next race, Singapore. A banger. It's always a banger. I've never done it in career mode before, so it should be interesting. It'll be a good one. If you want to see that one, make sure you subscribe, leave us a comment, like the video if you like what you see today, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye.